The screen goes black for 1 second. Not off, not broken, just dark enough to show your face. You see yourself there, floating in the glass. The room is behind you. The cup on the table, the light on the wall, the clothes on the chair, your own hand around the phone. Everything is normal. But the face in the glass does not feel like you. It feels like evidence that someone was here, not the feeling of being here. That is the strange part. You can be inside your own life and still feel not really here. You can be in a conversation and hear yourself performing the right expressions. You can walk through the evening, answer the message, wash the cup, close the door, and still feel like the day happened on the other side of glass. Not gone, not destroyed, just not fully yours while it was happening. The promise of this video is not that your life is secretly ruined. It is that this distance has a shape. The feeling that your life is playing in front of you and some part of you has become the audience. So the question is not, why are you wasting your life? That question is too cruel and too simple. The better question is, why does modern life keep pulling you out of the moment just as you are trying to live it? The distance rarely announces itself in a dramatic way. It hides inside ordinary scenes. You stand in the kitchen and notice the way the light would look from outside before you notice the meal. You hear yourself telling a story and at the same time listen to how you sound telling it. You go somewhere beautiful and a quiet part of the mind starts framing it before the body has fully arrived. Would this look good? Will I remember this correctly? What does this say about me? Should I be feeling more than this? There is a second self standing beside the first. One self is trying to live. The other is watching the living, measuring the angle, checking the expression, preparing the explanation in advance. That second self can be useful. It keeps you socially aware. It helps you speak carefully. It remembers what might matter later. But when it never leaves, even private life starts to feel public. The room becomes a scene. The face becomes a surface. The feeling becomes something to identify, package, defend, or improve. You do not simply have a quiet night. You watch yourself having a quiet night and wonder if you are doing it correctly. You do not simply feel tired. You examine the tiredness for what it means. You do not simply miss someone. You imagine how the missing would sound if you had to explain it. This is how a person can become distant from a life that is still technically present. The body is in the chair. The mind is at the edge of the room, holding a camera no one else can see. Modern life trains attention to leave the body, not all at once. It happens through thousands of tiny exits. A notification pulls the room into a different room. A camera turns the meal into an image before it becomes a memory. A profile turns personality into a surface to adjust. A message turns thought into something that must arrive with the right tone. Even silence gets interrupted by the habit of checking what silence might mean. The mind learns to stand slightly outside experience because outside is where things can be edited. Outside is where you can choose the angle. Outside is where you can make the moment clearer, cleaner, more explainable. Inside is messier. Inside, the feeling arrives without a caption. Inside, the room is not optimized. The light is uneven, the face is tired, the thought is unfinished. The body wants something before the mind knows how to justify it. So, the observing self takes over. It says, let me handle this. Let me make this presentable. Let me turn this into a story you can understand from a distance. And sometimes that distance feels like protection. If you are watching yourself, you do not have to be fully exposed inside yourself. If you are analyzing the feeling, you do not have to feel all of it at once. If you are turning the moment into proof, you do not have to trust that it matters before anyone sees it. But the protection has a cost. A life cannot be fully entered while it is constantly being converted into something to watch. The glass does not have to be thick to separate you from the room. Sometimes, it is only the habit of looking at yourself from the outside. The hidden cost is not that screens exist. The hidden cost is that the screen logic follows you after the screen is dark. You start treating the self like a feed. Refresh the mood, check the face, edit the sentence, scan the room. Decide whether this version of you is acceptable. Even rest can become something viewed from outside. You lie down, but part of you remains upright, watching the body lie down, asking whether this is recovery, avoidance, burnout, discipline, weakness, healing, or failure. The moment cannot breathe under that much interpretation. It becomes evidence before it becomes experience. And once everything becomes evidence, you begin to lose the quiet certainty of being alive. The foot on the floor, the air in the room, the weight of a cup, the small sound of a door closing. These things are not impressive. They do not explain you. They do not improve your identity. That is why they are easy to miss. The observing self wants meaning with a label, but life often arrives as texture before it arrives as meaning. It arrives as the cold edge of the sink, the rectangle of light under the door, the smell of rain in the hallway, the face of someone listening before you decide what the scene says about you. When you are always watching yourself, these details become background. The foreground becomes the question of how you are doing, how you look, how this appears, what this proves, whether you are becoming the kind of person who would know how to be here. That is the darkest trick. You can become so concerned with living correctly that you stop being available for the life that is already touching you. Return to the dark screen. Your face is still there for a second, held in the glass. The room is still behind you. The cup, the chair, the weak light on the wall. Nothing in the room has become more dramatic, but maybe that was never what made it real. A moment does not become real because it is captured. It does not become real because it can be explained cleanly. It does not become real because some outside version of you approves of how you appear inside it. It is real before the witness arrives. That is difficult to trust now, because so much of modern life teaches you to wait for reflection before you believe in experience. The photo proves you were there. The message proves you cared. The post proves it happened. The explanation proves the feeling counts. But there are parts of a human life that become thinner every time they are forced to prove themselves. The quiet hour, the unrecorded walk, the conversation that does not become a story, the sadness that does not become an identity, the ordinary room that does not need to be transformed into evidence. Presence is not a performance state. It is not another achievement. It may begin in a smaller way. Putting the phone face down and not immediately replacing it with another kind of watching. Letting the room be visually imperfect. Letting a feeling exist for a few seconds before naming it. Letting your own life touch you before you decide what it means. You may still drift out. You may still catch yourself watching, framing, narrating, checking. That does not mean the room is lost. It means you notice the glass. And noticing the glass is different from belonging to it. For 1 second, do not ask whether this moment is enough, whether it is late, whether it proves you are behind, or whether it would look meaningful from the outside. Let the cup be a cup. Let the light stay uneven. Let your face disappear from the screen when it goes dark. And let the room be where you are, before it becomes anything else.